to the Age of Fission radio show with your host, Lonnie Clark. We stand together and accept that we now live in a world transformed by Fukushima. From 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time here on UCY.TV radio. We relentlessly engage every ear that listens. We expose and confront the complete lack of accountability for the nuclear industry. Consider social engineering programs who view our bodies, minds, and souls as assets on a balance sheet. We discuss vital current issues, interview activists, and engage our audience in an effort to allow all voices to be heard. The Age of Fission radio show creates a venue that all will choose. We encourage our listeners to reclaim their power and their courage to take action and save our planet from the ravages of greed and indifference. Our actions matter. Every voice matters. We remind our listeners that happiness is resistance. Love is greater than fear.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Age of Fission radio show. I am your host, Jerome, and I call myself the Sane Environmentalist. I hope you're all well. I am recording this in advance of the show, so it is Wednesday afternoon. I'm down by the Willamette River in the woods, out as close to nature as I can get, a quick bike ride from my house. I'm listening to the few birds that there are sing in the woods and enjoying the power and majesty of this river as it flows through the city. So yesterday, I really have no idea what happened. This is what happened. I was in the middle of my sentence talking along, and then all of a sudden my phone just freezes up, and I use Skype on my phone. And I'm like, what the heck? And I'm disconnected, and I don't know what's going on. And so then I go to my laptop, and I go to Skype on my laptop. And the internet service at my home right now is not adequate enough to run Skype, so I can't run Skype. And I guess that maybe the internet on my phone was at a slow mode or something, but for whatever reason, I lost Skype on both machines, and then suddenly my phone literally just locked up. I couldn't get it to respond at all, even by pushing any of the buttons or anything. I did finally get it to shut down about an hour later, and took the battery out and let it sit for 10 minutes and put the battery back in, and that seemed to resolve the issue because I'm able to use it right now. But, whoa. It felt like an attack. It felt like a cyber attack, kind of. Like I was getting ready to get some communication out that somebody didn't want to hear, except I don't know how they would know what I'm going to communicate about, since it's in my head. So it isn't anything like that, of course, but you got to wonder sometimes. At any rate, what I was talking about yesterday was humanity on our planet. I did a YouTube video earlier about this, about our place on the planet, and how it has come about that we are in the Age of Fission, because this is an age. You have the certain ages of humanity, the Dark Ages, the Stone Age, the Enlightened Age, the Renaissance Age, although they call that a period instead of an age for whatever reason, and then the modern ages. which is what we're in now. We're in the age of fission. Okay, we're in the age where we're able to get energy and electricity from splitting atoms. And so we have literally unlimited electricity. That much power is a huge source for resources to have it. You know, our electricity, and this is what I was pointing out in my YouTube video a little earlier, our electricity is what enables us, if you will, to be as advanced a civilization as we are. Without electricity, we couldn't do many of the things that we do. Just off the top of my head, I can think there would be no internet or cell phones or any sort of electronic communication. There would be no industrialized products because there'd be no electricity to run the industries which create them, like pens and paper. If you wanted paper, you'd have to make it. You'd have to get trees and pulp them up or go to buy paper from somebody else who makes it. It wouldn't be an industrialized process anymore. That wouldn't exist. You couldn't have cars without electricity. You couldn't have heavy equipment. You couldn't have any kind of machinery whatsoever. For that matter, you couldn't even have a nuclear reactor without electricity. Electricity is intrinsic to everything in our life which exists, that we know of, that we understand as a modern age of society and humanity in general. With the exception of a few civilizations, if you want to call them that exist in the deepest, darkest, most uninhabitable parts of the planet, which still live in harmony with nature and Earth to the most extent. Only because their numbers are few and the survival rates are low and it's a hard life. And they don't have electricity. Key difference, they have no electricity. No electricity means nothing. It means that you don't have a light at night. You don't have anything. You know, you can basically start fire with friction and make pots out of clay. You know, maybe there's somebody in the village who's able to manufacture iron, you know, low quality ironware to a certain extent, you know, for certain tools and things, but not really. You know, for all the high tungsten and the carbide steels and the specialty metals and the specialty glasses, these all go away very quickly with no electricity. Our whole world is utterly ruled and dominated by it. And I don't mean our, meaning just human civilization. I mean the whole world. You know, thanks to the advent of electricity, it has enabled us. It's kind of like feeding a virus food. It just enables the virus to just do more damage to the organism that it's inhabiting. And I feel that's what humanity is. We are in many ways a virus. We don't exist in harmony with nature. We don't exist in balance with nature. Each human uses 4 or 5 times the number of resources that any other creature on the planet would use. And those humans are in a lower state than other creatures. You know, your average American, I mean, if you really think about it, your average American will use a kilowatt hour of electricity a day, 1,000 watts at 100 volts. That's a lot of energy. That is a lot of energy. Without even thinking about it. Turn it on the furnace, turn on the heat, take a shower, wash the dishes. Normal things that you don't even think about. Flush the toilet. Nobody thinks of electricity in toilets, right? Come on, there's no wires going to a toilet. You'd shock your ass. That's not going to happen. But guess what? Somebody's got to pump the water into the tank so the thing will flush. And guess how that happens? Without electricity, guess what you would be doing? You would be going to the well. You would be dipping water out of the well, pulling it out of the water, out of the earth, and walking over to the toilet and filling the toilet tank. Glug, 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 slop, 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 and then you could flush the toilet. And that wouldn't solve any problems either, because then the waste is going to go down the pipe to a station where it's supposed to get pumped off to a treatment facility. And if it doesn't get pumped off to the treatment facility, it will quickly clog up full of crap, the whole pipe full of crap. And nobody's toilet flushes anymore without electricity. The basic things in life that we count on to keep us safe and prosperous are all based on this power source. And at the same time, this power source is the result of the products that we are creating. And we know what we're talking about. We are in the age of fission, after all. These products that we're creating, this plutonium, this cesium, this strontium, this radioactive iodine, you know, all the things that we're pumping into the atmosphere and we're pumping into the water that don't belong here, all do damage to the base code of life, every bit of it. That's the danger, you know. And people don't seem to get it, and I can understand how they don't get it. Who wants to be responsible when you feel so helpless, so unable to change anything? You know, here we are, where our entire existence is based upon this power source, electricity. We can't run our lives without it. Can't happen. Yet, to create this power source, we have to create horrible pollution, which harms the very planet that we live in, the very environment that we depend upon, really, for our food. You know, we want good weather. We want bountiful fruits from the earth. You know, we need them, every human. If you eat chicken, fish, and poultry all in one day, or chicken, pig, and poultry all in one day, or turkey, beef, eat a nice eggs and bacon in the morning, that's chickens and beef and pigs, and then a burger at lunch, that's cow, and then you're going to go light and have a turkey salad sandwich for dinner. That's a turkey. It's 4 animals you're responsible for the death of today. Just today. You can say, well, I didn't kill those animals. And you're right, you didn't kill those animals. But those animals would not have been killed if you didn't have a need for the food that they provide. And there's another huge disconnect. We are disconnected as a species, uniquely disconnected as a species from our food source. To us, food is bacon and sliced turkey. The closest thing we get to real food is vegetables. We don't eat a whole lot of vegetables that don't come out of a package. Salad, maybe. A lot of salad gets eaten. You know, I look at the vegetable section, and of the hundreds and hundreds of different types of vegetables that are available, it's very simple. Peppers and broccoli, onions, lettuce, other green leafy things, a few root things here and there. But, yeah, our whole food system is based upon the artificially creating the number of animals and other things that we need in order to provide us with the variety in our diet that we have become accustomed to. You know, the ancient tribes and the current tribes in parts of the Amazon rainforest, they don't have a lot of variety in their diet. They eat the same thing every day. Probably for a lot of them, if there's monkey or other ground-dwelling critters for protein that you got to really hunt for and take risks to get to, wild honey from bees, maybe a few roots that have high protein, maybe a few seeds. Not a lot of things seed out in the rainforest, strangely enough. The rainforest is like a giant moss more than anything else. That's why it's so harmful when you destroy parts of it. It spreads outward from there. You can't take out a little part of it because it's all connected. See, we don't understand that because we aren't part of that. We aren't part of that connection anymore. We are numbed. We are separated. We are isolated from the reality that is our lives. And that reality is that yeah, I'm responsible for the death of 4 other animals today because of my dietary needs. Plain and simple. Was I being greedy? No. Was I being jealous and selfish? Not really. I was just providing for my nourishment in the only way that really is available for me to provide for it. You know, yeah, I could try to eat nothing but vegetables and have a strict diet based on consciousness, and people do. And that would really be the right thing to do. But what difference would it make? That's the question. I guess there it is, and there it is. How am I able to be an environmentally active person and still allow the death of an animal? Understanding that. How am I able to still consciously eat meat? It must be awful good. It must be tasty. It must be what my brain needs. It must be that I can't afford to get the number of vegetables that it would take and the way to cook it and the way to actually consistently do it in my life. I just don't have that ability. So maybe someday I will have that ability. Who knows? It's hard to tell and not knowing. So as a species disconnected, we have allowed ourselves to go forward in ways that we feel we're green, we're natural. You know, not really even realizing everybody, I encourage you to go to Google Earth, go out to space, pick the greenest spot on the planet and zoom in and zoom in and zoom in and look around until you see a city or a town, and you will start to see it. And then look for bigger cities. You know, look at places like Denver, Colorado from space. Look at Portland, Oregon, or Eugene, Oregon from space, and you will discover that our beautiful cities that we treasure so much are not so much a treasure as they are a hideous scar on the surface of the earth. A black spot, a dark spot, a ugly thing. Not natural, not circular, but square. You know, the shape of the earth is round. Everything we build is square or rectangular. We are literally a square peg trying to fit into a round hole, and the only way we can do it is by manipulating the hole to fit. And in the process of that, we have to do some damage, apparently. You know, in the process of just getting my regular dietary needs met, I have to literally cause the death of 4 different animals. Or the enslavement. You know, we think of, let's say, eggs that I get at work at a restaurant. You know, it's not, you weren't part of killing an animal. You know, they're laying eggs, they're for food, but what kind of life does your typical egg-laying hen have? They live in a box, barely big enough to fit into, with half their feathers falling out from stress constantly, getting fed whatever it takes to make them poop out eggs after eggs after eggs. They're enslaved all their life so that I can have an omelet. That's reality. Sorry. Not good to be a chicken in a chicken farm. Okay? I know some chickens, and they're in an open place and running around, and life is good, and they can roost if they want or not, or lay eggs if they want or not. And these chickens seem quite happy. Like life ain't so bad. So there is a difference. So this is all karma, and the thing and the trick of it is that we're creating an age. You know, ages are things that stick around. You know, the age of this and the age of that, those are things that you know they exist because the evidence of them is clear. Many, many, many thousands or hundreds or even 1,000,000 years later. It's obvious. We are creating an age. The Age of Fission, where we will have casks of very radioactive stuff. Already, it's like San Onofre, right off the top of my head. San Onofre, okay, good. So you got your fuel, you irradiated it, you put it in fuel pool till it cooled down, and then you stuck it in dry casks, and the dry casks, then you slide into an outer container. Okay, until we can figure out a way, until we have a place to put it. Okay. So then in 25 years or 50 years, or let's say 10 years, it turns out that 1 out of every 3 casks has a crucial flaw, which causes it to crack from the constant heat or something like that. And you have to pull those things out and replace the casks. How do you do it? Oh, well, you know what? We'll have to work out an engineering issue for that, because we hadn't planned for that. Really, you haven't planned what would happen. How do you remove them anyway? Well, we hadn't thought of that either. There actually is no real way at this point to remove them. Once you stick them in there and close that cover, that's it. They're supposed to pretty much stay there. Okay, you're at 10 feet above sea level. What happens if you have a catastrophic sea level increase? What happens if, for instance, an asteroid strikes the North Pole or Greenland and melts 25% of the ice? That could happen next week. What happens? Not a big asteroid, a little one. Wouldn't take much. An asteroid the size of a city bus, okay, would be enough to change the climate on this planet. Change sea level if it hit the right place. If it hit that ice sheet, it would melt. And it would cause catastrophic sea level rise across the entire planet, including San Onofre, Fukushima. God, look where every single nuclear facility is located across the entire planet. That's the age of fission. The age of fission is one in where any little thing can set this whole mess off, and life becomes unworkable for humans on this planet. And we can't, as humans, because of our electricity, cannot imagine it. We cannot even fathom the idea that this place can go away and become a wasteland where humans can't exist anymore. That's not within our perception or our ability to wrap our brains around. The fact that we are in the age of fission and we are creating catastrophic issues in the future, and there's no way to avoid them. You know, they talk about finding a safe geologic repository, and right now we're totally stalled on that. Pretty much it's like, well, one there really isn't. There's one in Sweden, I think. And that's about it. And we've got billions, with a B, of tons of this waste building up across the entire surface of the planet that we are creating. These are radiated products that we are creating. Tons. Billions of tons. I would not be surprised if there was 1 billion tons of radioactive waste existent on this planet today because of our fissioning of the atom, because of the age of fission. These are billions of tons of products that will be dangerous. Not just a little, but really dangerous. For longer than the entire existence of the human race as we have been taught it. Okay, the plutonium that they made in the 1950s will still be just as deadly as it is today in the entire span of time that we know of humans. Okay? 240,000 years it'll take for, I mean, our history goes back, 6,000 years? 10,000 years maybe? In 10,000 years, you're not even at one half-life of plutonium. All the strontium and cesium would be gone, but if there's any fissioning going on, and if you have plutonium, you will get the occasional fissioning event, then you're going to have, unless it's carefully contained and controlled. And who can guarantee that those casks at San Onofre aren't going to start to randomly fission and create new strontium and new cesium over the next 100 years, 150 years? So the casks aren't just going to turn into dust, and the control rod casings turn to dust, and then you're left with a pile of of pebbles, of irradiated crap with crumbled concrete on top of it. A hill. Looks like a hill. You might even have certain tough plants grow out of it. But anything nearby will be killed. There'll be no animals around. No birds around. And that's not today, that's not next week. That's in 400 years. That's 5, 6, 7 human generations down the road. That's why I'm fighting this battle. I'm not fighting the battle for me, you, and Bobby McGee. I'm fighting this battle for people that I will never know, that I can't appreciate, that I don't know what their government's going to be like. I have no idea, but I do know that not doing anything is really not an option. You know, there comes a time in life when, let me make sure I'm still recording. I think I'm still recording. Yeah, that's great. I love this. 24 minutes. So, yeah, in the age of fission, what is our legacy going to be? Is our legacy going to be the entirety of, oh God, the ocean's dead? That'll be one of the first things to go. You know, we don't think it's possible. Everybody thinks the ocean is just too big. Dilution is the solution to pollution, and that's a lot of water. Well, you can, that's the thing about ecosystems. You don't have to kill the whole ecosystem. You just have to get the one little spot and destroy that, and then the whole ecosystem falls apart. You know, all we have to do is take our eminent domain and kill the first species off, and the rest of them tumble like dominoes after that. You know, I'm sitting here watching 3 mallard ducks, and they're swimming along in the shallows along the Willamette, and they're occasionally getting their beaks and digging down into the dirt, and I think they're looking for little bugs and clams and snails, and that's what they eat. Okay? They eat bugs and clams and snails. If you destroy this ecosystem with a layer of silt and other contamination, those bugs and snails are going to die off, and when they do, the mallards are going to go away. And when they do, the predators that feed on the mallards are going to go away, etc. So it only takes one species, and it just is ironic that our pollution always kills the first one on the chain. It seems to get that one the quickest, and then the rest fall into place. You know, I hear 2 or 3 birds here where I'm at, and I am by the side of the river. You could call this in the woods. I can see no houses, I can see no buildings, I can see one little building down the river, and what looks like maybe a university on the other side of the river, and I can definitely hear a highway. But mostly I'm hearing birds and the water and leaves of the trees moving in the wind. It really is the perfect place to contemplate the universe and do my radio show. So, I know usually on Thursday I do the NRC thing, and unfortunately I was unable to do that because the internet at my house is just not workable. It really is not workable. I'll have to upload this somewhere else. Like I'll go somewhere else and log on to their Wi-Fi and upload this. So probably I'll go to my friend Lonnie's house and upload it from her house. So life is good. You know, I'm in a transitional phase, and that's okay. And I think that I needed to remind myself, and I need to continuously remind myself of why I'm doing what I'm doing here today, and how I will. You know, I was talking to some of my other activist friends here and there, and one of the more common responses that you get from them, and their reason for kind of backing off and doing other things, is that they don't see a result. They don't see any kind of change occurring. They don't see it in their life. They don't see it. They don't get it, and they don't understand it. And they are not willing to fight for something that they can't see. You know, They won't do that. And it wears them down, and spiritually it wears them down, and there is a constant worry and the nagging edge that this business puts in your life. You know, there's a nagging edge. So somebody's coming up to my little spot. I don't know if they want to come up, so we'll have to see about that. It's kind of holding his distance at the moment. So, yes, humanity, we have become numb. We have no idea. We don't teach our children those ideas. Because, see, that's who we're trying to reach. We're trying to reach the kids. We need the kids to grow up with an understanding of the damage we're doing. And every parent's like, well, I don't want to teach my children that. Well, that's bad for their psychology. Well, we've been living in a denial of this over and over and over. And yeah, it's bad for your psychology to know that your impact is real and pertinent and valuable. Not only to the destruction, but to the benefit of the whole system. As long as you just devote yourself to whatever it is. You know, so that's why I'm doing this. That's exactly why. See how far in we are. 29, 28, 29, 29, 29, 30. So I'll do 30 minutes now, unless these folks move on. And 30 minutes later. So yeah, it looks like they're going to hang out. I don't know, maybe they'll move over. I think there's a large population, an underground population, if you will, here in Eugene, Oregon. And quite a few people are homeless, I've noticed. A lot of homeless people. Like every 10th person, it seems, is homeless. I don't quite understand it. It's a phenomenon. You know, despite the economy doing well, you have a record number of homeless people. Makes me wonder if maybe the economy's not doing so well and we're being fooled into thinking everything is just fine. Every little thing's going to be all right. Big Brother is watching you and he'll keep you safe. Government is your friend. We the people. I have to wonder about we the people sometimes. I really do. Are we the disconnected ones? Are we the ones creating the Age of Fission? So that all other creatures on the planet will bow to our eminent domain, since we have that. We can dump hundreds of billions of gallons of liquid into trenches at Hanford in the creation of the weapon, which would, they say, is going to keep us safe. That's utter insanity, in my opinion. There is no weapon of mass destruction that will keep us safe. Nuclear power does not keep us safe. Nuclear power is not green. You know, you have to make a product that it may be green at the moment. Okay. But in the long run, it's very much not green. Because we don't know what's going to happen to these control rods. And I mean, these, I'll talk about that in a minute, and to these fuel bundles that we're creating, that we're no longer processing in the plutonium. I think now what we're going to see is the next generation of reactors are going to pull out the old fuel bundles and start grinding them up and dissolving them. And creating new fuel, MOX fuel, because they'll be burning plutonium now instead of uranium in their reactors. Hi there. How you guys doing? I don't. Sorry. Interesting. So, at any rate, let's talk about nuclear power plants. And I mentioned last week about control rod issues. And then I hear another commenter discuss that it is a Hitachi power plant, and there are many, many, many of them. I think it was Strontium Milks did a video about it, where the guide tube, okay, you've got to basically consider this. At the top of the reactor, or sometimes at the side of the reactor, you have a rod that sticks in between the fuel bundles, and usually one that goes right down the middle of the fuel bundles, which absorbs all the neutrons like a big magnet and keeps them from further creating fission. And these control rods, they pull them in and out of these fuel bundles, and it creates more or less fission. And when you have them all the way out, then you're at 100%. When you insert them, then you can control the fission reaction by controlling the amount of the fuel bundle that is being radiated at one time. It's not like a flame where it spreads to the whole thing. It'll only fission right where the neutron source is. And so they control the neutrons, and they can control the reaction. So these control rods are very important, and they move them in small increments at a time. Once your reactor gets to a certain speed, then you inch it out another couple inches, and then that area starts going. But if you pull it out too quickly, the whole thing can have a cascading chain reaction. If you get too much neutron flow at once, it'll overwhelm the control rods. And it can even melt the fuel at that point. The fuel itself could rupture and melt at that point. It gets so hot instantaneously with the quick removal of the control rods. Once you have a fission process going on, it could definitely cause issues. So they have to inch them in and out. That's how they control the reactor, and it all works just fine. The issue is that the control, there's a sleeve. So imagine you've got this boron rod, okay, and it's going through a sleeve, and the sleeve exits the reactor, and the rod is attached to a plunger that goes in and out. So it can push it in and out. Each one has its own individual plunger. Well, the control tube, the tube that guides the bar as it goes through the wall of the reactor, these things are suffering from damage, becoming embrittled, fracturing, getting stuck sideways, and creating real issues with the efficient insertion and removal of the control rods. Plus, if your control rod is broken off at where it enters the seal, it basically breaks the seal around the outside of between the control rod and the radiative environment that the control rod lives in and the outside world, i.e. the containment building at least, or in certain situations the outside world. It goes right up the stack. Any radioactivity that goes past those control rods, and that's another thing those guide sleeves are there for, is there's to stop, to guide the control rod, to act as a buffer at the edge of the control rod, and to act as a seal to help keep the material that's inside of the reactor inside of the reactor. All of it. You don't want any of that getting out. And some still does. It does still gas out. It does still get out, no matter what you do. You know, you're going to release tritium into the environment. You're going to release this stuff. And if your control rods stick, that may not in itself be catastrophic, okay? If you can't shut down your reaction, then you have your emergency system that would drop rods down, and if that fails, then you have your fluorinated injection system, which will literally poison the reactor. Will insert liquid boron into the reactor, and that'll absorb all of the neutrons, and so no neutron, no fissioning can occur in that water, that much boric acid in it, and so they can shut down the reaction, but still, and then you end up with a giant amount of very irradiated fuel in an unstable state without control rods in it, wanting to react. If that fluorinated water wasn't there, it would go to town. Not a good situation. You got to dismantle the entire thing. As soon as you take the lid off, boom, you're going to have issues. Every time you got to remove the lid from one of those reactors, you vent a huge amount of radioactivity into the atmosphere. Don't let them fool you and think that somehow the water contains the radioactivity, because there's a lot of gas that escapes in that process. I encourage each one of you to go to YouTube and look up reactor startup, okay? And you'll get to see some actual research reactors as they start them up, and you will see a huge amount of gas bubbles that are created. As soon as that thing goes, you'll see this burst of bubbles that leaves the thing, and those bubbles are tritiated, are basically hydrogen, radioactive hydrogen, which then combines again with oxygen to make water, tritiated or heavy water, which is radioactive. It has a short half-life. That's how they get away with discharging it, is they assume the half-life to be negligible. And so, again, dilution is a solution to every form of pollution as far as we know. We haven't seen problems with that yet. Good thing everybody listening to me will be dead within the next 100 years. Unless somehow this goes down in the archives of history. And since it's all electronic, it'll all disappear, our history. Everything about us, everything we feel so special about, will disappear so quickly. And what will be left behind is a huge, hideous mess, where even the most basic things can't exist. Earth will be returned back to the age of slime molds and single-strand DNA that can be broken and still re-evolves out of the basic chemical processes that create life, Is that what we want? Is that what our Age of Fission is going to result in? Nobody will ever know. There will be no Age of Fission because everybody will be dead. Once everybody's dead, well, it doesn't matter anymore. Then the Earth will reset. As George Carlin was out to say, it'll be the paradigm of the Earth plus nuclear waste, where the Earth will grow around the nuclear waste, and the nuclear hotspots will eventually scab over and heal. And the Earth's got plenty of time. Humanity, however, we haven't been here that long, and we're creating Earth-changing chemicals and other things, Plutonium, terrible stuff. Now we're going to burn plutonium, and so we're going to have another reason to remanufacture all of these fuel rods, and their thing will be, and they're right, we won't have to radiate and create more plutonium, but we will have to get plutonium out of these used fuel sticks and reprocess it and add uranium or whatever the heck they do to it to make it able to be in a controlled state of fission, because the reason they have to pull it out of the reactor is it gets so heavy in plutonium that it could chain react and blow up, and so they have to pull it out because it gets too reactive. The longer it goes, the more uranium turns into plutonium percentage-wise, and so plutonium is really hazardous stuff. All those things, plutonium, strontium, cesium, they all turn into a gas in the atmosphere, or the smallest component particle. Plutonium starts out as a shiny metal disc and quickly burns and leaves behind a white powder, which has talcum powder fineness to it that blows away in the wind and literally disperses evenly over an entire area. I would encourage somebody to look at cesium. Look up cesium explosion on YouTube. And there's guys that actually will get non-radioactive cesium and do experiments with it, because the stuff, as soon as it hits atmosphere, explodes into a cloud of vapor. An entire bottle, and literally explodes like boom, wow, that was and there's a big white cloud left behind where it used to be. So it goes into the atmosphere in its smallest component parts. And as it gets exposed, it does that. And it lasts out there for a long, long time. 300 years for strontium and cesium until they're not a problem anymore. Plutonium, 240,000 is 10 half-lives. It's 250,000 years. And it evolves and erodes into things that will still be dangerous and radioactive for millions after that. Don't think that it becomes inert. It doesn't. Trying to light a cigarette here, but it's windy. There we go. So, let's see, where are we at? This is a new experience. I have not done this before. 43. So I think I've got, it's 58. No, it ends at 59. And it starts at 1.5, or 58, 40, and 1.5. So I'm going to say 58, 30, 1.5 is 57 minutes. So that means we've got another 10 or 11 minutes, which is fine by me. So again, I'm going to have to start to pre-record my shows and then go home and stitch them together and upload them overnight before the next morning. If I do my show on Friday with Lonnie, I'll probably have to go somewhere with her and do the show with Lonnie, because we've been, I was staying at her place for a while, and when we did the show together, I was in one room and she was in another room, and that worked real well, and her internet connection was real good. The place I'm staying at now has not real good high-speed access, and so I'm not able, that's what happened this morning, I'm convinced. There just wasn't enough bandwidth there to do what I needed to do my show, and my show quit out, and then my phone locked up, and so I was just literally, I didn't know what to do. My friend Lonnie called me, and she's like, why didn't you just call me? I could have taken over. And I'm like, well, I couldn't call you because my phone was dead. I ended up having to take the battery out of my phone to get it to act right. That's how bad it was. It was terrible. So I again, could call a conspiracy on that, but I don't know what to think. That we ended up having this conversation right now. They can't stop this if they had any responsibility. But I think I do speak sanity. I do speak sense to this mess. I do speak looking at the difficult things and really looking at them and looking at our impact. And each and every one of us has to not only carry that message forward, but carry it forward to the children, not lie to our children anymore. Quit lying to our children. How many generations of children have been protected from the hideousness that they are exploiting upon the earth by parents with every interest at heart in their child and loving their child and not wanting their child to be traumatized by the reality, by the fact, by the helplessness of the situation that we, by nature of our very existence, must do some damage. That when you eat turkey and then pork and then chicken in one day, you're killing 3 animals. Whether you like those animals or not. You may think chickens are cute in a YouTube video, okay, but you just finished eating the McNuggets in a car, which you left your house, got in a car, and drove through the drive-thru, sat there in line, and drove back to your house to walk in and sit on your ass in front of your electronically powered TV and eat your McNuggets without even once considering what you just did and how much resources that used up and how much more of your share is gone now. But our shares are unlimited, see, because we have eminent domain. Our share is unlimited. We can take and take and take and take. And when we die, we're dead. We don't care, honestly. We don't give a damn. what happens to people 200 years or 300 years from now. We can't be bothered with them. We've got our own problems. We've got our children to raise. We can't allow our children to understand and possibly make changes. Oh, God, no, that would be uncomfortable for us and make us feel bad about ourselves, wouldn't it? You know, the only thing you can do is move forward and say it one thing at a time and speak to it one person at a time who may go and tell their children the truth. That life isn't all roses and daisies and my painted pretty pony, that product came from a place that utilizes human slavery to create it. And the paint is a hideous chemical nature that destroyed this entire species when they harvested the certain plant product. You know, or the plastic that created it comes from fossil fuel, and that plastic will be around and when they're dead, still floating somewhere in the ocean. And future generations are going to have to deal with that. And future generations are going to have to deal with our power issues. And all of the things that we consider normal that are part of our life, which we feel okay with, which really do damage. I don't know how else to put it. You know, if we don't properly educate our children, then there is no hope for the future. And as long as we can carry forward the numbing down, the denial, the stupefaction of our species, as long as we continue with that, then we will continue to go forward into the age of fission. You know, I guess I call this, I have this job because of the age of fission, but is it a job really, or is it just a responsibility? I'm not getting paid anything. I'm not getting fame or fortune or anything. I'm only reaching out. I'm only reaching out, and the only way that I know that I can reach out to touch other people, perhaps convince at least one person, maybe. Not even, you know, I'm not looking for a lot. I'm just looking for a little change to move forward. You know, that's another reason I don't own a car. I would live more simply. I'm trying to keep my personal resource level closer to equal, but I still eat, I still have meat, I still live a normal life and leave the lights on and use heat when I'm cold instead of covering up with another level of cloth or something, you know, or heat the entire house because the room I'm in is a little chilly. You know, not try to adapt around the situation as every other critter on the planet would. No, I'm just going to turn the heat on. I'm just going to burn some oil, some gas, and electricity all at the same time. Because I'm experiencing momentary discomfort. And then after half an hour, I'll be like, it's hot in here, and open the window. And not even think twice about it because I'm doing my job. Let's say I work from home. You know, I'm doing my job, I'm making my money, I can open the window or turn the heat on or whatever the hell I want. I pay for it. I'm the one paying for this. Well, if you live in Eugene, Oregon, part of that electricity is coming from the Columbia Generating Station. So think about that. That electricity you're paying for is creating the age of fission. And there's nothing you can do about it. And there is a certain hopelessness. And why bother thinking about it? Why bother even, in 100 years I'll be dead. Nothing I say will make a difference to 3 generations from now. And I think there's enough prevalence of that to where the continuation of this can happen. You know, it won't be until... and I keep having to turn the phone to look and see at what time I'm at. I'm at 52, so that means I got, what did I say it was? 57:30. So 57:30 is when, that's 5 minutes from now. So at any rate, I want to give shouts out. I want to give shouts out to my co-host Lonnie Clark and an apology for the snafu today. As well, I want to apologize to all my listeners for the snafu today. most humbly apologize for that. I should have thought that one out in advance. Today I'm thinking it out in advance, so I'm avoiding that problem tomorrow. You know, they get one-time problems too, and then after that, I do something about them, or at least I try to. So it has been interesting sitting down by the river and listening to the birds chirp and the wind. And instead of being in an enclosed space, it has been an opportunity to experience the beauty that is around me. You know, there's this one tree down here, and I kind of wish I could send an image through the radio, but it looks like a kind of cottonwood, maybe, and it looks like it fell over many years ago. It just fell, it got knocked down. Or actually, what it looks like to me is that it was a branch that was floating in the water that landed here, that still had enough life in it to where I can see that the branch itself just put roots out, and the roots went into the soil, and the rest of the tree has grown out of that event. And now it has two sections, one that goes off, and they grow sideways. One of them grows sideways right out over the water. It looks like a log you could sit on, and then you look at the other end of it, and there's a living tree coming out of it. It's the craziest thing. It's a sideways tree. Isn't life grand? Hasn't this been a genuine opportunity, folks? It really has. So, 54:43, 3 minutes, 2 minutes and some odd seconds. I'll try to end correctly. So yeah, Lonnie Clark, shout out to her. To Jules at UCY.TV radio, I'm so sorry about today. I could not get a hold of you. I apologize. That's why I'm pre-recording. Boy, your service really means a lot to so many people. To me, and Lonnie both. Thank you for all the effort that you put out to put our voices out so that we're able to get the message across. You know, and I know on YouTube, when you upload to YouTube, we get 30 views or more per video. I don't know what the view durations are and all that, but that's good. You know, and so every chance that I get to get the voice out, I might reach a parent who is a realist and a sane environmentalist as well. And as well, I can start with my kids. I can teach them the truth, and they're not going to like it, and it's going to be disheartening. But there are ways to approach it. Say, this is a problem we need to solve, versus this is just a problem that's going to kill everybody. Say, here's a problem we need to solve it. Set their minds at their young age to solving the problem. By the time they're adults, they'll have solutions. More shouts out. You see why? What is it? It is Eugene, KEPW, Eugene Peaceworks Radio. So, good for them. And they host our channel 97.3 FM in Eugene. I think we're on at 10 o'clock on Thursdays. So this show will air at 10 o'clock on Thursday night in Eugene, I believe, or 11. You can go to their website and find out. But that's KEPW, Eugene Peaceworks Radio, serving the underserved, and good for them for that. And thank you for that.